In our headlines on this Wednesday afternoon, March 20th, here in South Korea, a detailed allocation plan for next year's medical school admission seats is being shared by the government this afternoon, despite opposition from medical professors and practitioners that has resulted in a nationwide walkout by Korea's junior doctors. Meanwhile, North Korea's Kim Jong-un oversees a successful test of a solid fuel engine for a new intermediate-range hypersonic missile back on Tuesday, according to the regime's state-run media. And back here in South Korea, the leaders' plenary session under the Third Summit for Democracy begins at 8 p.m. Korea Standard Time as the final agenda of the three-day event that seeks to restore global faith in democratic values amid rapid technological advances. The Yoon administration is unveiling its allocation plan for next year's medical school admission seats this afternoon. The government plans to expand the current quota of 3,058 seats to 5,058 come 2025. And out of the 2,000 new seats, 1,600 will be allocated to medical schools beyond the Greater Seoul area. Should the allocation take place according to the government's plan, admissions in provincial areas will account for over 71% of the total quota from the current 66.2%. Beyond national borders, North Korea's state-run media claims the regime has successfully conducted a ground test of a solid fuel engine for hypersonic missiles. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung tells us what this means.
North Korea has claimed success in a ground test of a solid fuel engine for a new medium to long-range hypersonic missile. The North Korean Central News Agency reported Wednesday that Pyongyang conducted the test at a launching station near the west coast the day before, under the supervision of leader Kim Jong-un. Kim reportedly expressed great satisfaction with what he called the successful completion of the strategic weapons development plan presented back in 2021. Hypersonic missiles are among the list of weapons Kim vowed to develop within 5 years after the plan was announced. The regime conducted its first ground test of the engine last November. In January this year, the North test-fired a solid-fuel IRBM tipped with a hypersonic warhead. Experts say Tuesday's engine test was carried out as part of efforts to correct flaws discovered then.
The launch in January did not have a sufficient flight range despite it being a medium to long-range missile. They had to verify once again that it can fly up to a range of about 3,500 kilometers. So it appears that they increased the combustion time of the rocket's first stage to increase the flight range.
The North appears to have conducted the engine test on the ground instead of test-firing a missile this time to avoid tensions with Japan.
North Korea is currently showing relative restraint in firing in the direction of Japan's exclusive economic zone. Although we still have to wait and see, we can see that this is ultimately a sign of caution and consideration in preparation for future dialogue with Japan.
Hypersonic missiles are designed to travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound and often maneuver at relatively low altitudes, making them harder to detect and intercept. While North Korea's ICBMs are mainly designed to reach the U.S. mainland, this IRBM can be seen as a weapon system with the main purpose of targeting U.S. military bases in Guam or Japan. Eyes are on whether the North will soon test launch a hypersonic medium to long-range missile equipped with Tuesday's newly tested engine. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
And South Korea is shuttering the Gaeseong Industrial District Foundation, which served to support inter-Korean business ventures in the North Korean border city of Gaeseong. The foundation is holding a regular board meeting on this Wednesday here in Seoul to pass a related motion as well as a liquidation plan. Now, relevant support for South Korean companies will be provided by the South-North Korea Exchanges and Cooperation Support Association. Founded in 2007, the foundation's operations have been suspended since 2016. President Yoon Suk-yeol will co-chair a virtual summit of world leaders Wednesday evening to address democracy for future generations amid a rapidly changing world. The leaders' plenary session under the Summit for Democracy begins at 8 p.m. Korea Standard Time as the final agenda of the 3-day event hosted by Seoul. The leaders of South Korea, Kenya, and Denmark will each chair a discussion. President Yoon will underscore the need to protect democratic systems against the threats of fake news and disinformation driven by artificial intelligence. Kenyan President William Ruto will lead a session on the Global South and Danish leader Mette Frederiksen on inclusive society and youth empowerment. Arirang News will bring you live coverage of this virtual leaders exchange starting at 8 p.m. tonight. Now, ahead of the leaders' online gathering, dozens of offline workshops were held here in Seoul back on Tuesday with the focus on youth and democracy. Our Kim Jong-sil reports.
The second day began with an opening ceremony under the theme Democracy for Future Generations. Government delegates and experts from around the world gathered for the opening ceremony in Seoul. One of the main coordinators for the event, East Asia Institute senior fellow Lee Suk-jung, told us why the second day was dedicated to the young.
I think the future of democracy depends on the young generations. So therefore, inviting them to speak for their own stake is very important for the resilient democracies. So in that purpose, the third summit, the overall theme is democracy for future generations.
On this day, various workshops were available to participants with themes including global democracy coalitions, politics, youth empowerment, and digital technology, among others. I'm standing in front of one of the 60 workshops or similar events taking place here at COEX on the second day, and majority of these are focused on giving a platform to young people from all over the world to speak, as they are the present and future of democracy. The third such U.S.-led summit is being held outside the U.S. for the first time this year. Thomas Garrett, the Secretary General for Community of Democracies, a partner for the U.S. government's Youth Democracy Network, sat down with Arirang News.
We're always very impressed by the role of the people, of the masses in South Korea, from things like the Candlelight Revolution. You know, we're here for the summit of democracy. And one of the interesting things was when this process started, the U.S. President Joe Biden said, we need champions for democracy. And I think Korea has proven that over and over, but very much proven that they are a champion for democracy with this third summit.
Secretary General Garrett added that young people are needed to revitalize democracy, especially in a time of social media that's changing the digital technology landscape. He said it is the voices of young people that are going to keep democracy alive and fresh for the next 75 years. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
The government has shared additional countermeasures to tackle soaring food prices. Seoul's Agriculture Ministry on Wednesday said discount coupons will be available for fruits at major supermarkets. Also, cherries and kiwis will see slashes in tariffs. Authorities will also seek to raise the quantity of fruits stored after harvest. Stores, meanwhile, are exploring the option of expanding their offering of imported fruits. In his opening remarks for the 21st government policy briefing held here in Seoul earlier on Tuesday, President Yoon Suk-yeol pledged a new miracle on the Han River by fostering affordable and quality life throughout the capital city. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon explains.
The second miracle on the Han River. That's what President Yoon Suk-yeol called his plans to innovate the nation's capital during a policy discussion with citizens on Tuesday at an art center in the city's old industrial district of Yeongdeung-pogu.
과거 한강의 기적이 대한민국 성장과 번영의 역사를 상징한다면 새롭게 일으킬 제2의 한강의 기적은 서울의 도시 혁신이 될 것입니다. 대한민국 수도 서울을 파리, 뉴욕, 런던을 넘어서는 글로벌 인류 도시로 발전시켜 국가 제도약의 발판으로 삼아야 합니다.
His plan includes changes to the nation's real estate market to tackle rising rent and the complex methods of redevelopment. Most notably, President Yoon said he will abolish a real estate policy whereby the government gradually raises its declared property values, which he says has meant higher punitive taxing on homeowners, leading to rising rent costs. He also said in 2 years, 100,000 small to medium-sized homes will be available for rent to provide affordable housing. For his redevelopment plan dubbed New Village Project, older, often overlooked multi-home residential buildings known as villas in Korea will be redeveloped into modern townhouses. Loan opportunities will be provided for them. Government funding will help pay for CCTV, parks, and parking lots in these areas with 10 trillion Korean won pledged over the next 10 years. That's nearly $7.5 billion US dollars.
그동안 집을 다시 짓고 싶어도 엄두조차 낼 수 없었지만 이제 몇 가구만 모여도 뉴빌 사업을 통해 깨끗한 새 집과 편리한 커뮤니티 시설을 누릴 수 있습니다. 올 하반기부터 바로 시범 사업 공모를 시작하여 내년부터 본격적으로 사업에 착수할 것입니다.
He also mentioned the cultural aspect by saying that more locations are needed where artists can exhibit or perform what they've worked on, emphasizing the role of creativity from culture.
서울의 이런 문화 인프라를 강화시키는 거는 이제 서울은 경제, 금융 이런 분야로는 세계적으로 손꼽습니다. 그런데 이게 세계적인 도시가 되려고 하면 결국은 문화 인프라가 이거를 좌우합니다.
In the meantime, President Yoon said what's discussed doesn't just apply to Seoul. The new policies and infrastructure that need to be improved also go to the rest of the country. 김도현, Arirang News.
In other news, Korea's workforce is forecast to decline starting in the year 2028. According to the Korea Employment Information Service on Tuesday, the economically active population looks to grow by some 316,000 between 2022 and 2032. Now, this growth is only a tenth of the growth recorded over the previous 10 years amid Korea's rapidly aging demographic portrait. In fact, come 2025, a fifth of the population here is expected to be aged over 65. U.S. semiconductor giant Nvidia is testing Samsung's high bandwidth memory, or HBM. Now, this is according to its CEO, Jensen Huang, during the second day of Nvidia's GTC 2024, an annual AI developers conference hosted by the tech giant. When asked if Nvidia was using the South Korean-made HBM, Huang said they are not currently, but are testing it with high expectations. HBMs significantly increase data processing speed by connecting multiple DRAMs vertically. Such high-performance memory is essential for generative AI, which requires rapid and continuous processing of massive data. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to reaffirm his commitment to allies, including his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, as part of his diplomatic priorities, having secured a fifth term in office. A summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un is also believed to be in the cards. Our Moon Hye-ryun covers these prospects.
Russian President Vladimir Putin will travel to China for talks with Xi Jinping in May. According to a Reuters report on Tuesday, this could be the first overseas trip of his new presidential term after being re-elected on Sunday. The Kremlin declined to comment, but with Russia strengthening its ties with China since its invasion of Ukraine, it's unsurprising that Putin has made Beijing his first stop. Xi also visited Russia for his first overseas trip following the start of his third consecutive term in March last year, with the reciprocated gesture set to come after Putin's formal inauguration around May 7th. Putin reaffirmed Moscow's close ties with Beijing on Sunday, stating he would continue to develop their relationship in the coming years. The two leaders have met over 40 times, with the most recent meeting in October, when Putin was the guest of honor at China's Belt and Road Summit in Beijing. Trade and military ties between China and Russia have been particularly strong in recent years, with Chinese customs data showing that trade between the two sides hit over $218 billion between January and November last year. The Chinese Foreign Vice Minister also confirmed the strength of bilateral ties by claiming them to be the best in history during a visit to Moscow last month. Attention is also on whether Putin will be visiting North Korea, with observers predicting that such a trip could come in the second half of the year. Following the North Korea-Russia summit in September last year, Pyongyang's foreign minister visited Moscow in January to discuss another potential visit. A Kremlin spokesperson said that Putin's schedule for a visit to North Korea is being coordinated through diplomatic channels, but there were no plans to visit before and immediately after the presidential election. Analysts suspect that Putin is treading carefully amid reports of an arms trade between the two sides that violate UN Security Council resolutions. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Over in Hong Kong, a new security law is poised to take effect there starting this coming Saturday, aimed at cracking down on public dissent. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
The Safeguarding National Security Law was unanimously passed by Hong Kong's Legislative Council on Tuesday, expanding the government's power to punish anyone who goes against the state. Article 23 includes new measures on treason, espionage, external interference, state secrets, and sedition. The bill was first presented on March 8th and was quickly put up for vote less than 2 weeks later. The 90-seat council, which consists of mainly pro-China loyalists, saw 88 lawmakers and the council's president vote unanimously to enact the new national security law. The newly passed bill includes 39 security crimes and their punishments. It also means harsher punishments for those who commit those crimes. The maximum penalty is life imprisonment for treason or rebellion and up to 20 years for espionage with the intent to jeopardize national security. Some lesser offenses, including the possession of seditious publications, could also lead to several years in jail. While many citizens are concerned by the passing of the bill, lawmakers believe it will make Hong Kong a safer place.
Whatever comes, it'll come. We don't mind. You can see other countries do everything to protect their national security. And why can't we protect our national security? Okay? Be it downgrade, be it whatever, we don't mind.
Meanwhile, Washington says Hong Kong's new national security law has the potential to accelerate the closing of a once open society as it's analyzing the potential risks to U.S. citizens and American interests.
We believe that these kinds of actions have the potential to accelerate the closing of Hong Kong's once open society. So we're analyzing this legislation and we are taking a look at what the potential risk could be to not just U.S. citizens, but other American interests that we might have.
An attempt to pass a version of the national security law in 2003 was met with massive street protests that drew 500,000 people and led to the withdrawal of the legislation. It also comes after similar legislation was introduced in China in 2020, which has largely silenced the pro-democracy protests seen in 2019. The law goes into effect Saturday. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. The International Olympic Committee said on Tuesday that Russians and Belarusians will not be taking part in the parade of athletes at the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. According to the IOC, the athletes from the two countries will compete without their flags and anthems as a consequence of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Russians and Belarusians will be competing as individual neutral athletes under a specially created flag and an instrumental anthem with no lyrics produced by the IOC. The IOC said that although the athletes will not be part of the opening parade, they will be invited to experience all other parts of the opening ceremony. It also announced that Russian and Belarusian athletes who qualify for the Paris Games will be vetted by a 3-member IOC panel. 36 Russian and 22 Belarusian athletes are expected to compete at this summer's Olympics. In Bolivia, local authorities have found and seized almost $500 million of cocaine hidden in a shipment of scrap metal. The country's interior minister said on Monday that it is the second largest drug bust in Bolivia's history. Bolivia's Special Force of Fight Against Drug Trafficking found over 7.2 tons of cocaine in 2 trucks at the Pisiga customs on the border with Chile. The narcotics were hidden in scrap metal to be initially exported to Belgium before distribution to the rest of Europe. 3 suspects have been detained for criminal association and drug trafficking. In January, authorities also seized 8.7 tons of cocaine and the largest anti-drug operation in Bolivian history. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime says that Bolivia is the 3rd largest grower of coca, the base plant from which cocaine is produced. The World Meteorological Organization said on Tuesday that all major global climate change indicators broke records in 2023. According to the latest annual State of the Global Climate Report released by the UN's Weather Agency, average temperatures reached 1.45 degrees Celsius higher than pre-industrial levels, hitting the highest level in 174 years. Oceans are also suffering, with the report showing over 90% of the seas experiencing heatwave conditions, while ocean temperatures reached their warmest in 65 years of data collection. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres commented on the report, saying that the Earth is issuing a distress call and that the planet is on the brink. A new air quality report suggested that all but one of the 100 cities with the world's worst air pollution last year were in Asia. IQ Air's 6th annual World Air Quality Report, published Tuesday, showed that 83 out of the 100 cities with the worst air in the world were in India. The report, which specifically studied the levels of fine particulate matter, or PM2.5, showed that Begusarai, a city in northern India, was the most polluted last year, suffering from a PM2.5 concentration of almost 120, which is 23 times more than the WHO guidelines. PM2.5 has been linked to asthma, heart and lung disease, and other respiratory conditions, alongside cognitive impairment in children. Gaeseong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's spring equinox today, but it felt more like winter this morning with feels like temperatures going down below 0 here in the capital, and it's going to be even colder tomorrow morning. You know, it's easy to catch a cold when the temperature swings like this, so take care. Meanwhile, snow continues in Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-pukto province with 1 to 5 centimeters in the forecast today. A heavy snow advisory remains in place for Donghae and Samcheok in Gangwon-do, while coastal regions and Jeju remain under a strong wind advisory, with a dry advisory still in effect for southeast regions today. Afternoon highs should be 1 to 5 degrees lower than yesterday. Seoul gets up to 9 degrees, Busan topping out at 13 degrees Celsius this afternoon under bright skies nationwide, but that sharp winds will make it feel chillier today. We are looking at a chance of rain late Friday, then this weekend will be very warm, nearing 20 degrees by Sunday in the capital. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Right, and that ends our afternoon newscast for this Wednesday here in Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session. Do stay with us. Thank you for now.
A site where the Republic of Korea's past, present, and future coexist. Encounter all those times at the Independence Hall of Korea.
Thinking and I close my eyes, everything is black and white. I can't tell if we're getting closer. Running up against the tide, I could go my whole life playing this thing just over and over.
The center of the Republic of Korea's history and culture. The Independence Hall of Korea. Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries. Our change will lead to better lives for all. New Lotte, the power of a better world. New today, better tomorrow. Lotte.
Children's laughter, hope, dream. K animation belongs in them. Interesting and valuable story that transcends between everyday life and dream. Surprising spectacle where imagination becomes real. an array of subjects catering from infants to adolescents. For our story to reach all corners of the world. K Animation makes healthy laughter for children.
The 2024 Major League Baseball season bats off, if you will, when the Los Angeles Dodgers and San Diego Padres face off in the Seoul series this evening at KOEX Sky Dome, with a second match scheduled for tomorrow, that is March 21st, at the same venue. Welcome to yet another edition of Issues and Insiders. I'm Min San-hee. Major League Baseball is going global to kick off this year's regular season, and the opening game, that is, takes place here in South Korea. For more on this exciting event, I have sportscaster Jason Lee with us. Jason, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be back here on Arirang TV.
Right. I also have Kwon Soa with us. Soa, welcome back.
Happy to be here, Sunny, and happy to see you, Jason.
Yeah.
Right. So let's begin then with some background information about the Major League Baseball's 2024 World Tour.
Right. Major League Baseball has played over 200 games outside of the U.S. and Canada so far. But what we are referring to as the MLB World Tour is actually a pretty new initiative which started in last year's season. So between 2023 and 2026, some 24 regular season games and up to 16 exhibition games have been or are planned to be played all around the world, including in cities in Asia, Mexico, and Latin America, and Europe. MLB's 2024 World Tour kicked off in the Dominican Republic with 2 spring training contests by the Boston Red Sox and Tampa Bay Rays on March 9th and 10th. And now all baseball fans' eyes are on Seoul as the league's regular season kicks off in Korea today, Wednesday, a first in this country. The LA Dodgers versus San Diego Padres will play Wednesday and Thursday evening Korea time at KOEX Sky Dome in Western Seoul. Then regular season games are set to take place in Mexico City in late April, followed by another 2-game set in London in June. Now, non-baseball fans might ask the question, so why is the MLB playing these games at stadiums abroad? So think of it as a Blackpink or BTS tour. The MLB World Tour's main focus is to bring its teams to its global fans and create more opportunities to connect fans with the popular sport, baseball.
Right. And that being said then, Jason, what do you believe is the significance of Seoul hosting the opening game?
I think it's very significant. I think it certainly tells of how Koreans are doing internationally in baseball. It also is showing how Koreans as fans are interested in both Korean baseball as well as Major League Baseball. And, you know, I remember in 2017 when the KOEX Sky Dome was hosting the World Baseball Classic, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred came to Korea for those games. He had a press conference, and I remember one of the Korean reporters asked him, how do you feel about Major League Baseball perhaps having games here one day? And his response was blunt. He said, the stadium's kind of small. And you could hear an audible gasp when he answered as bluntly as he did. But that was then, and this is now. So obviously, the rise in Korean baseball, the fans have really grown the game a lot. And I think a big thing was in 2020, during the pandemic, when Major League Baseball was shut down for over 100 games, and the KBO games were actually being aired on ESPN, one of the biggest sports stations in North America. So being introduced to Korean baseball then, I think really brought an interest and respect for Korean baseball, and it also really highlighted how interested Korean fans are in the sport of baseball.
Right, and that being said, Jason, the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers are poised to face off at Seoul's KOEX Sky Dome tonight. That is Wednesday 20th here in South Korea, as well as tomorrow the 21st. What do you care to highlight ahead of these matches?
I think the big thing to note is that these are two teams that both play in the Western divisions in the National League, and both have a history with Korean players. So the San Diego Padres have both Gaeseong as well as Kim Ha-sung as a part of their team. Kim Ha-sung's been there for a couple of years, whereas Gaeseong just went over this year. So at first glance, you would think that, well, there's a couple of Korean players on this team, so everyone's probably going to cheer for San Diego. But not so fast, because the LA Dodgers have a rich history when it comes to Korean players. Everyone knows Park Chan-ho started his career as an LA Dodger. Also, Ryu Hyun-jin, who was the first ever KBO player to go to Major League Baseball through the posting process. He started off with the Dodgers as well. So there's kind of a lot of, I guess we would say in Korean, jung for Koreans and the LA Dodgers. So these are two teams that have very strong connections to Korea, and also in both cases, teams that Park Chan-ho has played for. So, you know, it makes it very interesting that it is these two teams. I'm going to be very curious to see which teams that the fans in the stadium are going to be cheering for harder.
Right. And so what are some of the events beyond the actual games that audiences can look forward to?
Well, first off, a legendary Korean baseball star that Jason just mentioned is going to throw the ceremonial first pitch at the opening games this evening, and that is none other than Park Chan-ho, who's the first ever South Korean player in MLB history. This year marks Park's 30th anniversary since making his debut with the LA Dodgers in 1994. The pitcher also played for the San Diego Padres team, so symbolically the perfect man to make that ceremonial pitch for the game between those two teams. The 50-year-old power pitcher ended his major league career 14 years ago, but he still holds the record for the most wins and innings by an Asian pitcher. Audiences on site and at home alike can also look forward to K-pop performances, which should add up to all of the excitement. Girl group aespa will perform on the celebratory stage this Wednesday, and another girl brand, G-idol, will be on stage Thursday. Various brands opened up pop-up stores for the event with emblems or badges that represent famous stars, just like South Korean Padres player Kim Ha-sung, or currently one of the, or maybe the most popular baseball star, Japanese Shohei Ohtani, who plays for the LA Dodgers. And the atmosphere with all the cheering at the games is also going to be worth just being part of it all.
Right, I'm sure. Now, Jason, prior to these opening matches, earlier this week, the two teams, they played exhibition games against Kium Heroes, LG Twins, as well as South Korea's national baseball team. What is your assessment of these friendlies?
You know, I think a lot of people were curious on how the Korean teams would do against these major league teams. I think the obvious assumption was that they were going to get killed. And in all fairness, the Kium Heroes did not fare that well. They lost, I think, 14-3 or something like that. But at the same time, you're talking about the team that came last place in the KBO last year. Also, their best pitcher has undergone surgery, so he was not playing. And also their best hitter, Kim Ha-sung, he was actually playing for the national team when they played the other team. So it really was an unfair matchup to begin with in that particular game. Having said that, the Dodgers only beat the Korean national team 5-2, and then the two other games that the San Diego Padres played, those were one-run games. They beat the national team 1-0, and they beat the LG Twins 5-4. So very close games. I think it does show that, hey, Korean teams, they can play with some of the best teams in the league, in the world, I should say, on any given day. Obviously, over the course of a long season, if you're playing 162 games, things might be different. But on any given day, I think, you know, teams can compete at a high level.
And speaking about the Korean teams, the KBO League's 2024 season kicks off this coming Saturday, I believe.
That's right, yeah, on this weekend.
What's the latest on that front?
The season, it starts actually a week earlier than normal. They bumped it up because there's going to be another international tournament at the end of the season. In November, there's going to be an international tournament called the Premier 12. It's sort of like the World Baseball Classic, but probably not as promoted as largely. But it's going to be important, which is why they've bumped up the season a week. And what I'm really excited about for this particular season is the Hanwha Eagles, because they have been the doormats of the KBO for such a long time. They've been either last or bottom of the standings year in, year out. They've only made the postseason once in the last 16 years. However, having said that, Ryu Hyun-jin, who has played for the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, he is back in Korea. He has re-signed with the Hanwha Eagles. So him joining his former ball club, they've got No Shi-hwan, the defending home run champion that really had a breakout season last year, and Moon Dong-ju, a youngster on the squad that I think is going to be an absolute star in the next couple of years to come. I think it's really exciting to see what Hanwha is going to do this year after struggling for so long.
Right, I see. And so I hear there's also been a few changes in rules this season for the KBO. Could you give us a rundown?
Right, Sunny. But to be honest, for someone who wasn't even deeply into the rules before, it was really difficult to understand the changes, because I'm the kind of person who enjoys going to baseball games now and then to have my chicken and beer there and enjoy the atmosphere. So Jason, please feel free to add anything to the changes, or if I'm missing out anything. So first, the first change that I want to mention is the adoption of the automated ball strike system, or in short ABS, also called the robot umpire. Through tracking technology, the ABS assesses balls and strikes, after which it sends the call to the home plate umpire through an earpiece. Now, according to the KBO, after having some tests earlier, the success rate of the ABS is 99.9%. So if the ABS was for accuracy, the pitch clock will be introduced, this one to speed up the games. According to this rule, pitchers must pitch within 18 seconds in the case bases are empty, and within 23 seconds when runners are on. So basically, the pitch clock limits the amount of time before a pitcher throws the ball. Players will also have to get used to a ban in infield shifts, as well as bigger bases, up from 15 square inches to 18. Now, starting this year, also temporary replacements for foreign players will be allowed. So for instance, if a player is injured and needs weeks of treatment, then you would have a temporary player coming from abroad. And I also want to mention that some of these changes have been partially adopted by the MLB as well. And also the MLB is going to look at the changes of the KBO to maybe later also adopt these changes by benchmarking from the KBO, I believe, if that's correct, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of these rules were brought into Major League Baseball last year. One other rule that they are including, by the way, is the pickoff play. So before, the pitcher could throw to first base or other bases to pick off a base runner as many times as they wanted in a game. Honestly, it was kind of ridiculous in a lot of cases. Sometimes it would happen 5-10 times. But now what they've done is, by the third time, if you try to throw to a base to pick off a runner and you don't get the out, then the runner automatically advances to the next base. So that's a new rule that was also implemented in Major League Baseball last year. That will be implemented into the KBO this season, along with each of the rules that Soa mentioned. And the only rule that has not been used of the ones that Soa mentioned in Major League Baseball is the robot umps. So that is being introduced in Korea for the first time. They did use something like that in minor league baseball, in AA and AAA in North America, but they have not used that at the major league level yet. And as Soa mentioned, I think what they'll probably do is, to a certain degree, they'll watch how it works in Korea, take a look at what are the benefits, what are the downfalls, and then make a decision eventually. They do believe that robot umps will come to Major League Baseball eventually, but I think they want to make sure that it's perfect when it gets there for their game, and I'm sure they'll kind of look at how Korea uses it this year and beyond.
You're right, so a cautious approach there. Jason, how do these changes in rules look to affect game strategies, if I may?
I think it's going to be a little bit different than in North America, because the reason that they added each of those rules in North America was to promote offense. They wanted to have more base stealing and more hitting. They're making it easier for hitters to get hits because pitchers were throwing harder and harder, 99, 100, 102, 3 miles per hour on their fastball. So it's just getting increasingly more difficult to hit in Major League Baseball. In the KBO, however, the KBO is known right now as a hitter's league, as it was. So there's already a lot of offense. Hitters do well, you know, in comparison to other leagues. So I think it's going to bring even more offense. And I can honestly say I don't know if it was necessary. But having said that, Korea wanted to adjust to the accepted gameplay around the world, because this is what they're going to be using for international competition. So they want their players to be playing the international rules. So for a league that's already very offensive, I think we're going to see even more runs. But I think the games might be a little bit shorter, as Soa mentioned, because of the pitch clock.
Right, I see. Also, so on the domestic front, starting this season, streaming service TVing, I believe, will be showing the KBO matches, right? What more can you tell us?
Right, online streaming platforms are increasingly becoming popular among sports fans as they attract them for a live streaming of their favorite games. But before we talk about TVing, I want to mention also Kupang, because Kupang currently streams the MLB World Tour Seoul series, and Kupang became the first online streaming service that surpassed 8 million users a month in January, and that's attributed to its rise in active users who look for sportscasting services. Now, while earlier people would rather watch them on portal website Naver, OTT platforms are clinching exclusive partnerships, which means with big money, just like TVing now has done with the KBO. So apart from watching the games on regular TV, through TVing, KBO games can be watched online through PCs, mobile devices, or smart TVs from 2024 to 2026. The CGA-EM streaming service, however, will need to gain a little bit of more trust from the public, as it recently faced criticism for making mistakes in subtitles for players, poor screen quality, and broadcast delays during the KBO preseason streamings. So TVing apologized for the shortcomings and vowed for proper quality with the start of the regular season. TVing is offering also a variety of contents and features, such as the TVing Super Match, where one match will be selected for an in-depth look, preview shows with in-depth interviews with players and managers, 4D cam service, which means you would be able to watch the game in 360 degrees, documentaries on players, real-time rewind function, as well as live chats among baseball fans that will all add up to the streaming experience. And TVing will also allow users to record and edit clips of up to 40 seconds with no copyright issues. So I think that is because they want to, you know, spread more of the games and make those, in Korean you would say 짤, so fun video clips that the fans can share among themselves.
Right, an interactive process then.
Right.
Jason, generally speaking, what do you suppose are the broader implications of streaming services on perhaps the popularity of baseball here in Korea?
I think this is very important. I think accessibility, promotion, and just availability for everyone is going to be great for the expansion of the KBO. As an example, I mean, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and in 2016, when they won the World Series, I was in Busan at a tourist site, and, you know, I'm trying to watch my game, but I didn't have access to a TV. So I actually watched the game while on tour on my phone. And to be able to watch baseball or, you know, whatever you need on these streaming platforms, to be connected anywhere you go, the accessibility for that, it's obviously going to be great for fans. And as mentioned, to be able to promote it as well, to not have copyright infringements, to be able to make shorts or other things, to be able to spread the word on what's going on, that is only better for the baseball fans. It's better for the KBO. And hopefully, you know, it can expand beyond just Korea as well. I'm part of an online community of foreign fans that love the KBO, and there's constantly people that are wondering how can they watch these games in other countries. And sometimes it is difficult without VPN services and stuff like that. So hopefully this will lead to even the next step so that it's not just for KBO fans in Korea, but also KBO fans internationally all over the world that can really, be able to watch KBO games because they really are very entertaining.
And speaking about fans, we have like about a minute or two left, Jason. I'd like to touch upon the popularity of Padres player Ohtani that Soa mentioned earlier.
LA Dodgers player.
LA Dodgers player Ohtani, of course. And LA Dodgers, of course, here in Korea has much popularity because of our players like Park Chan-ok, former players, that is. Well, Ohtani enjoys quite a bit of popularity here in this country. How do you explain that? He did say that Korea wasn't one of the few places he wanted to visit.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that we get a chance to see Ohtani in Korea because when this game was originally scheduled late last year and the game was decided to be the Dodgers and the Padres, Ohtani wasn't on the team at that point. He was with the LA Angels, but through free agency, I think it was late December, he decided to sign with the Dodgers. I, for one, when I saw the signing, the first thing I thought of, Ohtani's going to be coming to Korea. He signed with the Dodgers. I mean, he had a 2 in 30 chance of picking a team that would be coming to Korea. He picked the LA Dodgers, so everyone in Korea, as well as, those in Japan, that haven't seen him play in some time as well, get to make the short trip over and be able to get to see him play. So certainly a great opportunity that everyone gets to enjoy.
Right. Hopefully tonight here in Korea, we'll see him in action then.
I can't wait.
Well, all right, Jason, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. And Soa, thank you very much for your insights.
Anytime.
Right. Well, that ends Wednesday's edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching.